Good evening and welcome once again to another edition of our Government at Work program, a program brought to you by the CCM-led Nevis Island Administration and hosted by yours truly. It's a program designed to inform and educate all citizens and residents of Nevis, both at home and abroad, of the many positive developments that are taking place here on the island of Nevis. It's another wonderful Thursday evening here in Nevis, and it's a time when we all look forward to a night filled with information, good conversation as it pertains to the good governance of the CCM-led Nevis Island Administration. We look forward each week to deep conversations with the ministers of government, the advisors, permanent secretaries, department heads, as well as top officials from the various statutory corporations here on the island of Nevis. Each week, we make every effort on this program to keep the discussions as frank and as honest as possible so that our listeners and viewers will get a true reflection of the developments that are taking place here in the land that we all call home. This program, I remind you, is broadcast live on VON Radio every Thursday evening from 8 to 9:30 p.m. Then we broadcast on Nevis Television on Sunday evenings from 8:30 p.m. This and other Government at Work programs, as well as our Bird's Eye View programs, can be seen on Facebook, YouTube, and NTV webpage. Just a gentle reminder for our Flow Television viewers, our television program can be seen on Channel 103. And for those of you who have digital TV, our television programming can be seen on Channel 99. So make sure that you log on every day of the week for our news package, our informative programs, and of course, our entertainment package. We shall take a short break, and when we return, I shall introduce my guests for this evening programs to you. So stay logged on to the powerhouse of the Eastern Caribbean, VON Radio 860 AM.
So right, St. Thomas is right, St. James is put together and build your land. Right, St. George's and St. Paul's together with St. John's. This land is enough for all to share. No reason to leave and go nowhere. Foreigners can come here from America and England. There's something mighty sweet about my land. And if the foreigners who live here can insist that it's here they're from, then I swear I'll never leave my native land. One people, one country.
Welcome back. Folks, with the start of the hurricane season just a little over 3 weeks away, I am pleased to have as my guest this evening the Director of the Nevis Disaster Preparedness Unit, Mr. Brian Dyer. Mr. Dyer, good evening and welcome once again to our Government at Work program.
Good evening, Mr. Scarborough. It's a pleasure to be here. And good evening to the listening audience.
You know, it seems like only yesterday we were here talking about the hurricane season, and now it's here with us again. Now, before we go into our discussions regarding the upcoming hurricane season, I want you to shed a little light on a couple of matters for us. First, I was told that you were abroad recently on assignment, and that you only returned on Tuesday of this week. So enlighten us a little on that trip and the purpose of it, of course.
All right, good evening again. I was privileged to be a part of the Early Warning Systems meeting that was arranged by the United Nations Disaster Risk Reduction Office. And this meeting involved the CDMA participating states, as well as some international organizations and agencies, such as the International Red Cross, the University of Twente, formerly known as ITU, International University, as well as some United Nations organizations. We had representations from Colombia and Singapore, who presented on the new initiative of financing adaptation measures. We also had Belize displaying the assessment portal. We had presentations from the Red Cross in the Netherlands. They're introducing now a comprehensive assessment tool for the islands or the countries around the world to adopt. So they presented that tool to us. It's a very comprehensive tool, and it's more work for the local departments to complete that assessment when it becomes available to us. We also look at data governance, how we manage data, how we transfer data from our local entities, standardization, what to collect, how to collect, formatting. We look at the entire gambit. From that meeting now, we will be meeting online next week with our. It was agreed that the disaster management, the physical planning department, and IT departments of each country meet online next week to determine the adaptation of the Belize model with regards to how they do assessments, etc. So we look forward to that meeting as well. So it was very productive.
Okay.
Yes.
Where was that session and how long it lasted?
The meeting occurred in Barbados at the UN House, and we were hosted by the United Nations Disaster Risk Reduction Office.
And how long it lasted? A week?
It was 2 weeks. Sorry, 2 days. Sorry.
2 days.
Yeah, 2 days.
Okay. Now, the disaster prepared unit has been conducting a number of simulation exercises first part of this year. Could you give us some feedback on how those exercises has been going and the type of exercises you've been having?
Right. As part of our preparatory actions for not only hurricanes but any hazard that could impact the island, we are a coordinating agency by function. So the first exercise for this year, we partnered with the Emergency Dispatch Center. And this center is also the home of our CCTV network on the island. But integrated in that facility is the communications between the disaster management, the health facilities, that is the ambulance, EMT, police, fire. So we have 4 critical agencies that are connected via telephone and also UHF radios. So we conducted our first exercise early January to simulate some exercises around the island and look at the response times for not only disaster management but all the other agencies and how we perform, and also the gaps within the communications network. We again tested the system 2 weeks ago before I traveled. So we are getting there with regards to ensuring that the system functions across the island without any hiccups.
Okay.
And we're getting there. In March, on the 24th of March, we conducted the regional tsunami exercise. That is a regional exercise. Well over 100,000 persons usually participate in that exercise, and over 48 countries. Nevis is no exemption. So every year we practice the mobilization of persons from the coastal areas who, in the event of a tsunami threat, would have to be evacuated. I don't know if some of our listeners may know, but we had a scare early in February when my phone went off to indicate that a tsunami threat is the threat message has reached as far as Sabre. All right, so we're not out of the woods, you know what I mean? So we have to be prepared at all times. So we make it an effort to ensure that we participate in the exercise every March.
How many persons normally participate in that tsunami section?
For this year, we had over 2,400 persons.
Oh, really?
Yes. We had an increase in the number of businesses. We had the schools. Usually 8 schools would participate in this event, including the Charleston Secondary School and Sixth Form College. We had some preschools, Maud Smith and Vaughan and Lou, as well as the Stepping Stone. And this year we had the Stepping Stone 1 and 2 participating in the evacuation exercise. These are really tiny tots. And this year again, for the first time, we collaborated with the Community for Disabilities. There's a group that operates out of the Cottonmouth Community Center that provide an avenue for persons with disabilities to come together, to enhance their knowledge, skill sets across the board. So we partner with that group, and they participate in evacuation exercises as well.
Okay. Well, where would you locate them to? Where's the location that you take them to if there's a tsunami, God forbid?
For tsunami, once they're operating under the Cottonmouth Community Center, they will migrate to Barnesville. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Now we have a whole lot to discuss this evening, Mr. Dyer. So let us get straight into it. And like I said earlier, it is that time of the year again when we hope and pray that the hurricane season passes by without any damages to our little island or any of the islands throughout the Caribbean, for that matter, and the wider world. But the truth is, we really have no control at all over that. And most we can do is prepare ourselves as best as we can, and as a people. I want to start this evening discussion by asking you to give us an update on your preparations thus far for this upcoming hurricane season. Premier Brantley, during his most recent press conference, said he was pleased with the early preparation thus far. So speak to us a little about that.
Okay, preparation or getting the country prepared is not a small task, right? And it is a continuous process for us. So we started late last year with a project called the National Disaster Baseline Assessment Project, and we partnered with the University of Hawaii and the Pacific Disaster Center, and they provided us with a report that documented how vulnerable each parish is on the island, and also that ties in now with the infrastructure and the population in each parish, not only for Nevis but also for St. Kitts. So we have that data available. So any parish that is impacted, we can overlay the damage assessment and know how many persons would be impacted, as well as the infrastructure that would be impacted. So we have that report. Apart from that, we also had a review of the disaster plan here on Nevis. It originally was hurricane centered, but we have now included some other hazards that we are able to manage if we are impacted based on the particular hazard. So we have updated our disaster plan. We have the baseline assessment. We have also the thing is Nevis, also the beneficiaries of a project under the GCF 5Cs, where we are now in possession of our climate resilience disaster portal. And this has information on wave heights and also hurricanes. Right? It also provides us with the hurricane surge and wave heights and wave atlas, as well as a forecasting tool, and also a climate portal that we can overlay the hurricane speeds and that kind of information as well. So this, in collaboration with the Met Services and Disaster Management, we should be able to provide more detailed information with regards to hurricane tracking for this season coming up.
Okay. Now, over the past 2 years leading up to the hurricane season, we experienced some very warm weather patterns, which had all of us believing that this time around we may not escape the ravages of those last two hurricane seasons, but to God be the glory, we did escape. Now, once again, however, the experts are predicting an above normal hurricane season, which prompts me to ask you this question. How are you feeling about this year's weather pattern? And why do you think that despite the fact that the weather is not as warm as in the past 2 years, the experts are predicting an above level hurricane season?
The initial predictions from the Colorado State University, they released a report in early April, and they are predicting an above average season with a total of 19 named storms. 7 of which could be hurricane, out of the 7, 4 could be major hurricanes. Yes, it is above average, because the average is about 11 hurricanes, right? So last year we had a higher number for the reports coming from the not only Colorado State University but also the National Oceanic Administration. This year, the waters are not as warm as last year, right? So we would see less storms. We also see the La Nina is in a neutral phase at this time. That is the warming of the equatorial Pacific, the Eastern Pacific Ocean. That is not as warm as last year. Last year we had the conundrum where both the Pacific and the Atlantic were equally warm. So we had an increase in activities. And because of this, we may see stronger upper level winds that would tend to reduce the number of storms coming from the stronger winds coming from the Pacific to the Atlantic would be a bit stronger. That would assist in also reducing the number of storms. We also have to look at the impact of the Sahara dust and the location of the high pressure system in the Northern Atlantic that may have some impact as well on the not only formation but the movement of these systems and where they develop.
But the experts are still predicting an above normal.
Yes, we will see an above normal because the average is about 11 to 14 name storms. So they're predicting 19 name storms.
Okay,
right.
That's quite a bit. Could you this time outline for our listeners and viewers the name of the storms for this hurricane season as well as the various categories of storms that the experts are predicting?
Like I said, the early prediction is for 19 name storms.
Yes.
7 of which could be hurricanes and 4 of which could be major hurricanes. This year, the World Met Organization, the list of names that the World Meteorological Organization have published, the names suggest that they will start with Andrea, then Barry, Chantel, Dexter, Erin, Ferdinand, Gabriel, Humberto, Imelda, Jerry, Karen, Lorenzo, Melissa, Nestor, Olga, Pablo, Rebecca, Sebastian, Tanya, and Van. Last year, we saw some significant storms develop. So the names Beryl, Helene, Milton, and John were retired. So no other storms will be named those names. They are in the Hall of Fame for destruction.
Let's hope they're steady.
Yeah, they were steady. And we hope that the names I call would not reach the Hall of Fame as well. Because somebody will be
normally they increase the names as the season goes along and if the needs be.
Yes, the World Meteorological Organization usually provide a 6-year name list. So we can have a rotation of names.
Okay.
But if the destruction is so terrible, then that name will be retired and it will be replaced.
Okay. Now, I had the minister with responsibility for disaster preparedness unit here in Nevis, the Honorable Spencer Brand, here last week, and he mentioned the fact that the unit will be conducting some training sessions for the shelter managers shortly. Could you elaborate a little on that upcoming training session for us?
That training was completed already.
Could you tell me there was some?
Yeah, we have a robust list of training activities that we would like to see happen for the rest of 2025. We started this year with the school safety for early childhood. That was conducted the 7th and 8th of April. We had earmarked the school safety for persons with disability for the early childhood sector to commence immediately after the early childhood activity. But because of poor attendance, we had to defer that training activity. The shelter and shelter management, we had that last week, the 24th to 25th of April. Right? We had some 15 persons trained. That's new persons. We had some persons who were trained already who came back to as a refresher. Right, so that was done the 24th to 25th. During that training, persons were informed of the number of shelters on the island and also what it takes to manage a shelter. The layout of the shelter, the facilities in the shelter, the coordination between the shelter and the disaster management, and also feeding programs, the inspections from health authorities, rotational police officers, that kind of thing, security personnel, etc., etc. And following up on this shelter training, it is the intention of the disaster management to bring all shelter managers together to meet with the minister, so he can again, offer his commitment and thank the persons who have came forward to act as shelter and shelter managers for this year, because it's a thankless job, and they would have to leave their families in the event of any emergency. So we usually bring them together and have the minister, give them some encouragement and hope that they all come out and do human service if they are called upon. Because sometimes we have persons who are trained, but when, it's time to act on your training, some persons don't show up.
Okay.
So we would bring these persons together. The meeting is set for the 3rd of June when they will meet with the minister. So we look forward to having all shelter managers on the island meeting with the minister, so they can also hear their concerns, and we can meet their needs as far as practicable.
Okay. The minister mentioned that there'll be a meeting with persons who play a major role. I don't know if that's what you're talking about. If a storm is approaching, such as Red Cross, the media, the fire department, Ministry of Health, etc. That meeting will be chaired by the minister himself. What are some of the things that is normally discussed at such a meeting?
Okay, that meeting you're referring to is what we call the NDMC, Nevis Disaster Management Committee meeting.
He did mention that.
Yes. It's similar to the meeting at the federal level, where we will have all the decision makers at that meeting.
Right.
So on Nevis, we have set aside the 26th of May for that meeting with the minister.
Okay.
And we will have all the agencies on Nevis: police, fire, health, solid waste, the volunteer, Red Cross, the community emergency response teams. They would state their readiness for the 2025 hurricane season activities. The subcommittees are also responsible for providing written reports to the minister as to their meetings and their preparatory actions. There are some 11 subcommittees. We created a subcommittee last 2 years. The newest one is what we call WASH, Water, Health and Sanitation. And that one is chaired by the Director of Water Department. So we will be inviting all the utilities, the emergency response agencies on the island. They will come to the department to report to the minister their preparatory actions for 2025 and what is needed by the government to assist them in getting them to the threshold that they can function.
Okay, great. Now, he also mentioned when he was saying that there will be a damage assessment training workshop as well. Could you shed any further light on that for us?
Yeah, the damage assessment need analysis workshop is scheduled for the 19th to 22nd of May. That is 1 week before we meet with the minister. Right? And this training opportunity is for technical persons in the various sectors on the island. So if you are from agriculture, we expect you to send at least 2 representatives. Tourism, health, the economic sector, finance, the insurance, public works, physical planning, those with the engineering skills. So we are teaching them how to assess damages done to buildings. But not only that, we want to look at how affected persons are and what questions to ask persons in their households and how to manage or compile the needs list so we can address these needs on a personal basis. Men, boys, women and children and persons with disabilities. We would have to now look closely at how the disaster or the impact is on each individual. And these are some techniques that we will be teaching during the 19th to 22nd of May.
Okay, great. Now, I was made to understand that there was a visit to all of the shelters already to ensure that they are in readiness for the season. Give us an idea as to what exactly you are ensuring was in those shelters.
All right. Annually, we have to conduct shelter inspections. Last year, we published 10 shelters across the island. And these facilities are government facilities for the most part, and they are utilized by the community development on a daily basis for activities, whether it's training, weddings, parties, they like after school classes, right, around the island. So we have to ensure that these facilities are in top shape when we have to commandeer these facilities during emergencies. So we conduct a thorough inspection of the facilities. We ensure that the kitchen system is in top shape with regards to no leaks and no termites. Windows are properly in good order. We ensure that the shutters are in place. We also look at the plumbing of the bathrooms, both male and female. You must have male and female. We also look at water redundancy at these facilities and backup power supply. What we did last year, we had ensured that we installed transfer switches at the majority of these facilities. So we have 7 out of the 10 outfitted with transfer switches. So in the event we have to move generators to have these operational during an impact, then this facility will be prepared. We have encountered an issue in the Charleston area with our shelters. As we recognize, the Charleston police station is under repair, and the Charleston police station housed the magistrate's court. So the magistrate's court was moved to the Anglican Church Hall. So that facility had to be removed because of the use of the magistrate's court. And now the main court, the High Court, is under repairs. And the Alberta Payne Community Center is now being used as the High Court. So we had to remove that facility as well from our shelter list. We are now looking at the Girl Guides headquarters as the other facility that can be used as a makeshift facility. So we need to do some remedial work on the Girl Guides facility to ensure that there's water redundancy and also the electrical supplies is of standard to receive a standby generator if we have to utilize that facility. So even though we have conducted our inspection, there are some remedial works that are being done at these shelters, and we are awaiting the upgrade of the Girl Guides facility. If we do not have the Girl Guides facility on stream by the 1st of June, then we will publish the list without the Girl Guides headquarters and update when that facility comes on stream.
Okay. Could you inform our listeners and viewers as to the location of the shelters like we normally do each year, in spite of what you said about the Charleston area?
All right, so we will start with the parish of St. Thomas, or St. Thomas's. We have 3 shelters in that parish. We have Jessup's Community Center, Barnesville Community Center, and the Cotton Ground Community Center. Then in St. James, we have the Franklin Brown Community Center at Combermere, and also the Butlers Community Center in Butlers. In St. George, Gingerland, we have the Charles Waters at the Hanley's Road Community Center, and we utilize the basement of the Ebenezer Church of God in Central. And then we move to St. John's. We have the Panel Community Center, and that's the lone community center in St. John's since the Alberta Payne was removed. The Maisie Bartlett in Brown Hill has not been used for the last 3 years because it's due repairs. and I understand that facility is not totally government. So we are still hoping that we can have that facility back online as soon as practicable, but it needs some repair work.
Okay. You don't have much time left, only 3 more weeks before the hurricane season starts.
We have not used that facility now for almost 3 years. Yeah.
You think you'll be ready by the time the season starts?
Yes, we will be ready.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Now, has the disaster preparedness unit received any additional hurricane equipment for this upcoming season, such as radios, tarpaulin, raincoats, flashlight, etc.? Any additional equipment?
We have received some equipment under the CRID project. As I mentioned earlier, the climate digital portal, we have received some televisions for displaying the portal. We have received some laptops and tablets as well. We also received some additional equipment. We under another project that was under the Global Support and Development, they have upgraded our communications in both Singers and Nevis. So that equipment the shipment was delayed. It should be arriving on island next week. That's the information I received last. The equipment should be arriving next week, and then we will work to install those radios in both Singers and Nevis. From that project, we hope to ensure that all community centers on Nevis are equipped with communications.
I was just going to ask you, where is the equipment?
Currently, one community center in each parish is equipped with radio communications, so we can have messages passed between the community center and disaster management. With these equipment that are coming on island next week, we will be installing the equipment in all the emergency shelters on the island. We would also be installing some equipment at both NEMA and the NDMD. So we can coordinate not only with our emergency shelters but with each other. Part of this equipment, we would be receiving satellite terminals. So in the event of all other modes of communication goes down, then we should be able to use satellite platform to communicate.
With these technical equipment going into the community centers, are the shelter managers trained to use those equipment?
At Cadre, when we installed the first set of radios, we conducted training for the shelter managers, and volunteers will be supporting the shelter managers. With the installation of new equipment, we would have training. We would train our cadre persons, and then they in turn would conduct training for volunteers and shelter personnel who will be operating the emergency shelters.
Oh, okay, great. Oh, could you speak a little about the contribution of the CCM-led Nevis Island Administration assistance towards the annual hurricane preparedness? We know they're part of the command center and everything, but their contribution towards the preparedness.
The preparedness or the funds donated from the Nevis Island Administration, they are responsible for the annual budgetary outlay for each department. This year we have seen a 20% cut in the remittances. However, in terms of the upkeep of the emergency shelters, the community development spearheads the repairs of these shelters. The amount of funds outlay for emergency response for disaster management this year was 400,000. This is a reduction from last year, right? So we have to ensure that we utilize the funds that was provided to the department, wisely.
Okay.
We have received some support from external agencies. As you're aware, we have lost the services of the USAID, Bureau of Humanitarian Assistance, from the new US administration. We lost that support. So through some funding from the Green Climate Fund, we were able to see the product from the the Hurricane Surge and Wave Atlas. We had funding from the Green Climate Fund that supported the funding agents, the technical agency HA Wallingford to providing the portal. Also, we have received some funding from the Global Support and Development. They have provided the equipment to enhance the communications between Sinkers and Nevis, and they have also provided some funding for the training for our training program for the rest of 2025.
Okay. Now, there was speaking of the regional bodies, there was a climate change global effect seminar workshop held in St. Kitts early this year. Speak to us about the purpose of that workshop. Remember that?
Yes, I remember that one. We looked at having that one was for the stakeholders to ensure that we were able to provide local resources with regards to getting funds from the Green Climate Fund. So we have some local entities now who have gone through the process of becoming what's the correct term now? Like the banks, there are a few banks now who are now agents for disposing of the funds from the Green Climate Fund.
Okay.
That was the workshop that I recall that was held at the Marriott, where a number of stakeholders were brought together. So the Green Climate Fund ensure that they provide the information of what they are about and how the process of accessing funds from the Green Climate Fund, and to ensure that we have some accredited entities on the island.
Okay. Now, how valuable would you say that workshop was to the preparation efforts at the disaster preparedness unit here in Nevis?
It was beneficial in that we are now in a better position to submit projects to access funds from the Green Climate Fund. Since the workshop, we have put together 2 proposals that will be submitted shortly to the Green Climate Fund. And one is over $1 million to enhance the early warning systems on the island of Nevis. We also looking to enhance our social media platforms and revamp our public awareness information. So we are actively putting that project proposal together as well.
Okay. Now, a delegation, I recall, from the Regional Disaster Management Team visited Nevis last year. Has there been any further communication with that organization?
We are a member of the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency. The number of countries have now increased from 17 to we are now 20 states. St. Martin is now on board. Cayman Islands is now on board. And one other state that came on board recently. It's St. Martin, Cayman, I can't recall the other one, but we are now 20.
Right.
So we do maintain a close relationship with this our parent organization. And we also, as a government, provide some subvention to ensure that the organization is kept afloat. That subvention is paid by the federal government.
Okay. Are you expecting another visit from that organization anytime soon here in Nevis? I know they were here last year, but are you expecting back anytime soon?
I am not certain. The delegation that includes the executive director for the organization, she now has 20 states. I met up with her in Barbados last week, and she flew in the afternoon just to meet with us because the workshop was coming to an end. And she had a whirlwind tour visiting 5 states in 3 days. So it's a demanding task to have a representative from that organization to come to us.
Okay.
However, in collaboration with that institution, as we are discussing some training with regards to our warehouse management and logistics. So as soon as we can form up the dates for that training, then I can put something in the media to ensure that the Caribbean Disaster Management Agency and the funding agency who would support that training get their props. You know?
Okay. Folks, you're listening to Government at Work. My guest this evening is Mr. Brian Dyer. We'll take a short break, and when we return, we shall continue with our discussions here on Government at Work.
So right, St. Thomas is right, St. James is put together and build your land. Right, St. George's and St. Paul's together with St. John's. This land is enough for all to share. No reason to leave and go nowhere. Foreigners can come here from America and England. There is something mighty sweet about my land. And if the foreigners who live here can insist that it's here they're from, then I swear I'll never leave my native land. One people, one country.
Welcome back. Mr. Dyer, I want to return to the preparedness of the country for the upcoming hurricane season. One of the difficulties we always face is that people do some things during the storm and after the storm that they shouldn't be doing. So could you remind our citizens and residents here in Nevis of some of the do's and the don'ts during and after a storm? Because it is important that persons understand what they should and shouldn't do during and after a storm. So just remind them what they are not allowed to do, what they shouldn't do. Because some people have this tendency of running out after a storm has passed or the ice passing through.
Yeah, it's a difficult situation that we have been dealing with over the years.
Yep.
I would like to stress that when the country goes into emergency mode, only the essential persons should be on the streets. Right? That essential persons include the utilities, police, fire, the EMTs, disaster management. And if we need assistance from volunteers, then we ask the volunteers to come up. Likewise, in the immediate aftermath of any impact, we understand the person will be anxious to get the first photos out and, to get some likes on social media, etc. And some person go as far as to peddle misinformation, right? It's a constant battle for disaster management and the officials in managing misinformation. So we understand there will be some malicious persons. Some person would publish photos from other countries and from yesteryear to show that there's some destruction, etc., etc. We want to, as far as practicable, reduce that occurrences here in the Federation. So we would encourage persons to remain at home after any impact until the all clear is given by the appropriate authority. The Prime Minister usually is the one who would issue the all clear. Or if the impact is on Nevis specific, then the Premier will give the all clear after a thorough examination and assessment by the appropriate personnel, disaster management, physical planning, public works, police, etc., based on the hazard. So we encourage persons to remain at home, and you do an assessment on your home, and you report your own assessment to disaster management of any impact or injuries, so we can have injured person treated. If you have any impact, then we expect us now at disaster management to collect the damage reports or impact reports, and then we have at our task when we go around now to do damage assessments to verify the reports received. So we would encourage persons to remain at home, and if called upon, you can assist the person going around doing the road clearing to assist, to clear our streets. But for the most part, we would want you to remain at home and stay off the streets until the all clear is given.
Let me ask you, are there any consequences for a person not following those instructions? Because although you talk, people still run out, go down the beach to see how the beach is damaged, to see all kind of things.
In a state of emergency, then there will be some penalties. Right? The police would have to enforce, or the defense force working in conjunction with the police will have to enforce that aspect of it. But we have seen persons moving police barricade just to go and take a photo and endangering themselves. We have had some situation where persons came out too early and then the wind picked back up and trees start falling and persons get trapped in certain areas. We have had instances where persons would leave shelters early, go home to party, and then when the situation deteriorates, then they request now for emergency services to take them from their home back to the shelters. Right? We don't intend to tolerate that kind of behavior for 2025. We claim to be a literate society. So I appeal to persons, in the event of an impact, please to listen to the appropriate authorities when we issue our warnings, and to ensure that you remain at home taking care of your family and friends.
Okay, they're listening, so I hope they take heed. Now, the timely reporting of any damage to property or persons is always important. So could you let our listeners and viewers know the numbers to call if they should suffer any damages to property or persons and may need assistance?
All right. At Disaster Management, last year we had up to 14 lines. This year we have reduced the lines to 5. Right? We are trying to assist the NIA in reducing some of its expenses. So we have reduced our numbers to 5 total lines. However, 4691423 will be our main lines, 4697903, and then these lines now would then roll over to our other lines, right? So we have 4691922, 4695403, and 2 others that I can't recall at this time. But once you call the 2 main lines, then the 4 numbers that are unoccupied would automatically roll over once additional calls comes in. But the 2 main lines are 4691423 and 4697903, and the other main line 4691922.
And all these lines are located in the command center?
Yes, all lines are coming in the command center. And we are working to have these lines separate and apart from what is on the government domain. The government domain is 4695521, and then we have extensions. So we
but the numbers you give are the straight ones that
straight ones, yes. Right. So, but we are working on our redundancy, right? So we should have that down pack before the hurricane season. Right.
I notice you use the word reduction or reducing a couple of times. Well, is it because the storms are not as you don't have as much as you had last year?
Not necessarily, but because of the financial situation of the NIA, we have had to make some cutbacks. Right, and not only cutbacks, but we don't want to just cut back for cutting back's sake. We still want to have some robot system in place.
Right.
So it was a strategic move because each line has a rental fee. Right, and we had 14. So we haven't used all 14 lines now for several years. Right, so we feel that we can get by with 5.
Okay.
And if those 5 goes down, then we rely on our radio. We have both UHF and VHF radio network established, and we also have now the satellite platform. So we have some redundancy built in.
Okay, great. Now, preventative measures to secure property and lives are also very important during the hurricane season, especially if a storm is approaching. So things like cleaning the property, disconnection of appliances are important. I am sure that there are other measures that is recommended as well. So could you speak to those measures and the importance of those measures for our listening and viewing audience?
Well, during the hurricane season, we work with the utility companies, and they would also provide a list of things that they would require of persons to minimize the damage to their homes and appliances. Disaster management also has a list of things that we encourage persons to do.
Right.
And
those are the things I need you to point out to them so they could know. You have a list of things, but they need to know what the list
it's a long
of things
list.
are.
We have
Not all, just name some.
all right. For starters, you should have an emergency plan, a communications plan at least. So if your family member get trapped outside, we should know how to contact that family or where to meet that family member. Right? We should have our homes insured. We should ensure that trees around our homes are cut or trimmed. We should clean our spouting. Remove any loose galvanized from around the home. Keep our yards clean. Concentrate on cleaning your drains. Ensure you stock up on dry goods. You have a robust supply of batteries in the event that electricity will go for an extended period. Ensure that you can support yourself using batteries. Have a lot of persons now don't have transistor radios. It's important that you have a transistor radio. It's important also for an emergency first aid kit. We donated first aid kits to all the schools on Nevis in February of this year. So all the primary and secondary schools are outfitted with first aid kits. We have first aid kits in all our shelters, and that would be again restocked come 1st of June, right, along with some other supplies. Stocking up on dry goods is important. Crackers and canned goods that can be consumed in one meal, being a sausage, canned beef, peanut butter, those type of foods. You should have a go bag, with the essentials, important documents, passports, land titles, banking information, some cash, and a change of clothes for 3 days at least. Right. Raincoats are important. I wouldn't recommend umbrellas because that will go in in high winds. Raincoats are important. Some persons would buy water boots. I've seen some emergency material that eliminate water boots because you can't run in those type of boots, right? So, but protective footwear that can withstand the water, right? In Japan, newspaper is important because you can make your utensils from newspaper and line it with cling wrap. So you make bowls and cups and then you line it with cling wrap to make it waterproof, right? So it depends on which country you're from. There are different techniques that person encourage to ensure that survivability during difficult moments.
Sure.
Right. We should also identify toys that your children will gravitate to. There won't be any Wi-Fi. So a favorite book, or some toy that the children can play with to pass time. Right. So your medication is also important. Persons with medication should ensure that they have an additional supply. If you happen to go to the emergency shelter, that's one of the things you should report early during your registration process. Type of medication and the dosage and the amount, because the shelter managers also have to monitor that. And then when the information comes to us, then we make arrangement with the health hospital or the health center in the parish to provide additional resources or medication to those persons. Right? So that's part of the shelter management training that came out as well. So as I said, we usually partner with Van Radio, and they would provide for their updates a long list of what is required. And we also partner with Nevlec and Flow Digicel to ensure that their concerns are also a part of the information being published. We also, this year, we are partnering with World today with the psychosocial component. We have a workshop on the 4th to the 6th of June with the trauma-free world. This is a worldwide entity that assists person dealing with trauma. So for the first time, they'll be coming to the Federation from the 4th to the 6th of June. So we have already reached out to the guidance counselors, for the social services, the Ministry of Education, Ministry of Health, the Evangelical Association, because we have persons of the faith-based organizations. We have reached out to the police department, and we're reaching out to fire services. So we ensure that we have a good cadre of persons who can receive some additional training or refresher training with regards to counseling and how we deal with trauma, because it is not an easy thing to deal with disasters. So we look holistically at how we can improve the services that would be available on island in the event we're impacted during the 2025 hurricane season or for any other hazard.
Now, to do all that is necessary to assist and protect the Nevision public, you will need volunteers. I'm aware that there are some who volunteer each year, but I'm sure you'll be happy to have as much as you can. So I want to give you this opportunity now to make that appeal to the Nevision public to become a volunteer for the disaster preparedness unit during the hurricane season in particular.
Yes, having volunteers is an important and integral part of our outreach and getting our work done. We cannot have enough volunteers. We have an appeal on our webpage 24/7, 365 days a year. All right. Every training we conduct, we usually reach out to persons in our communities, encourage them to come on board. Sometimes for some of these trainings, we see regular faces. But I was happy to see for the first training with regards to the early childhood, we saw some new faces. We saw some new faces for the shelter and shelter management training, and we are hoping to see some new faces for the damage and needs assessment. Last November, we conducted training for our community emergency response team members. We had a good turnout there as well. So we are looking to see those persons who were trained in November last year coming on board to work with us through this hurricane season. And not only through the hurricane season, we have training for our Tiny Tots, our summer safety program that comes up in August. However, we are working with the World Academy of Safety and Health for our summer swim program. This will be done in July, and the second component will be the summer safety, where we teach safety to all our children in our communities. Last year we had 55 children, and we are looking to accommodate up to 80 this time around. So we will need volunteers to assist in running that week program where we impart safety knowledge and skills to our children. Because as we recognize persons can lose their parents, so we're trying to ensure that the children are so equipped that they can survive by themselves. We teach them first aid, CPR, fire safety, wilderness training. If they have to forage for food, we teach them what to look for in the wild. How to build a structure from either cardboard or sticks. We teach them how to get away from a burning building, having them go through smoke-filled tent to simulate building, going through a maze to simulate a home structure where you had furniture and beds and stuff. And we set up a tent with a maze, and we have smoke going through the facility and have the children pass through and wend their way out as part of the training. So this takes place in August, usually last week of August. Right. This year we are separating the swimming component from the actual safety component, as we have the World Academy and health officials. They're coming on island, so we are working with them to do the swimming component. When that is out the way, then we can concentrate heavily on the safety aspect of it. Right. So
now, in terms of volunteers for the hurricane season, could you outline the areas where volunteers may be needed and the responsibility that those volunteers may be engaging?
All right,
specifically to the hurricane season.
For hurricane season, again, once we are in emergency mode, there are a number of things that we need volunteers to assist with.
Right.
For instance, getting the shelters prepared, installing the shutters on the shelters. We will need assistance. We have 10 shelters. Some of them are two stories, 2 floors. So we will need persons with ladders to install shutters. Once a hurricane, we have some lead time, so we would need the assistance from volunteers early to ensure that these facilities are prepared.
Right.
Coordinating to move the elderly from their homes to the shelters. That's another avenue where volunteers can assist. Some volunteers are good at accompanying the elderly, are working with the elderly. They can also assist the shelter management team in having the shelter function. Some are good cooks, take the burden of the team and can assist. Some can provide security, right? Some are retired nurses, could assist with dissemination of medication. Some can operate the radios that we will be installing in these centers. They can become radio operators, message handlers. In the EOC as well, we would need persons, especially if you have to rotate, if you be in emergency mode for more than 3 days, we will need shifts, to implement shifts. So we need drivers to disseminate supplies, restock these shelters, assistance in the EOC for radio operations, for security, for note message taking, operating the phone lines once damage assessment starts coming in. We also need persons to assist the damage assessment teams in going out in the field to do assessments. And then when the information comes in, we have to now go through painstakingly and ensuring that the information collected is correct and we have the supplies available either on our warehouse or coming into country. We will need volunteers again to move the goods from warehouse, customs warehouse or containerization to disaster management or to the distribution points. So the need for volunteers is never ending. We have to clear roads. We need truckers. We need heavy equipment operators. If we have to do recycling, we need now for persons to separate plastics, wood, concrete. Because, we not only have to cater for hurricanes, earthquakes. We need persons to do search and rescue. So in Japan, we learn a lot where from the tsunami impact, they had to do a lot of recycling. All the wood that came, concrete, plastics, glass bottles, everything was recycled and reused. We can adapt the same principles here, right? So we need volunteers. Some person are good at praying.
We need a lot of that.
Counseling. The yardstick is wide for when it comes to volunteering. Yeah.
But it sounds like you need a whole lot of additional volunteers.
Yes,
as
I said, we appeal is a constant appeal, 365 days a year.
Well, they're listening, so appeal to them.
Well, yes, we have our numbers come on board. 4691423. You can reach member staff. We have
give them the numbers slowly again. If a person is interested in becoming a volunteer, what numbers do they call?
If a person is interested in volunteerism for disaster management or for Red Cross, they can contact the Nevis Disaster Management Department. 869-469-1423. 869-469-7903. They can also reach me personally or any member of staff. My personal cell number 869-668-6401. You can also go through the government system 869-469-5521, extension 6476, or access switchboard to patch it to disaster man. We have several extensions. You can also go online and fill out the application form. There's an application form online on our website www.ndmd.kn. We also have social media pages that display volunteer forms as well. You can look us up on Facebook, Instagram, whatever other social media platform there is. We have a page with our volunteer form.
Now, for these persons, because you've been doing training all along, but for these persons who may be coming on late, would you be providing a training session for them? Or anything?
Yes, once we have a volunteer on board, they are trained. Even though we have had some training sessions that have passed, we have a long list of training that we haven't covered yet. So there will be in time for those training sessions. And then at the end of the year, if we are not impacted, we have training again for our community emergency response teams. So they can come on board for that aspect of it as well, because it covers a wide gambit from map reading, first aid, CPR, disaster management, fire safety, search and rescue. It covers a lot.
Now, the command center is made up of top officials from the NIA and other organizations. What exactly is their role during a storm? The command center. What is the role?
The command center, as it says, command and control. We try to manage the disaster situation. We get information from underground. We have to do assessments of what is likely to happen before it happens. Who will be impacted? What sectors will be impacted? We also have a responsibility to the parent organization, the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency. We have to provide those entities with timely updates and situational reports. We meet with there's a meeting, we call it the CPDG meeting, where it is comprised of the UN agencies and also some donor partners who could assist. So once we provide these entities with situational reports, they are in a position now to summon more assistance. So in the event that the country is impacted that need assistance, they would have already made preparation for assisting the countries. So the decision makers that comprise of the directors and ministers of government who should be in the EOC assist in making these decisions. If persons need to come in, they also have to reach out to the embassies, because we do have expats from various countries here. And some may not have experienced hurricane, In 2017, we had the example where one person reached out to the American embassy and said they were under attack. Because they had never experienced a hurricane before. So when their house started, feeling the effects of these strong winds, they reached out to the embassy and they were under attack. So we got a call in the EOC reporting that this family reported that they are unsafe. So we had to ensure the embassy that we would do investigations. And when we did make contact, we found out that it's the first time they experienced hurricane, and they were just looking assistance, a comfort really, rather than any general assistance. So that was reported back to through the Foreign Affairs, right? So we deal with a lot of issues, not only locals, but persons living among us who are not accustomed to these facilities, these conditions. So decision making is critical, right? We have had some unfortunate situations too, where locals would request assistance and then refuse to come when assistance shows up at their doorsteps. So these are some things that the decision makers would have to consider and make decisions whether the emergency services go out in these treacherous situations to assist or remain at base and assist after the impact. So when information comes, we have to make a decision whether we would assist or not, if you can delay and how much of delay, and we also have to ensure that the critical infrastructure or the roads are cleared for a certain time for ambulance movement or fire truck movement, immediately after.
Now, let me ask you something. During a storm, an actual storm is hitting us, who is in the command center?
The command center is manned by disaster management staff as well as the subcommittee members.
Oh, so if the storm is passing,
they got to be, yeah.
Oh.
So we have persons from public works, police, fire, water services, the utilities, NEVLEC, Flow Digicel. We have tourism, agriculture, social services. We sometimes will have persons from the Christian Council because they comprise the mitigation council, or I think it's or what we call the NDMC or Nevis, the Disaster Management Committee. So their responsibility of being in the EOC, making decisions based on the situation at hand.
Oh. So while we hunker down, they're in.
Yeah, once the families are hunkered down, you lose some members because they are in the EOC.
They're in the, okay.
Yes.
Okay, now, does this group meet only when the storm is approaching or on different occasions?
No, our first meeting, by legislation, we meet once a year.
Oh.
But as I indicated, we meet as often as required. But the legislation said we must meet at least once a year. So our first meeting this year is the 26th of this month.
26th of May.
And then we would meet on a regular basis during the hurricane season, especially if we are threatened.
Okay. Now, does this group that sits in the command center require to do any training in preparation for an approaching storm?
Yes, we usually have what we call the Emergency Operations Center training, where they're taught message handling, how to prioritize messages, and damage assessments, how to do damage assessments and needs analysis. And we also, some of these members are part of our communications, who would formulate the press releases and the message that would have to go to the premier for him to allay the fears in the communities, So it's a holistic arrangement, and in the event that the country is impacted, we will have the international team that would come to assist. So these persons must be taught how coordination, how to work with international agencies, etc., etc. And if we have volunteer groups coming in, decisions will have to be made by the Nevis Island Administration cabinet, which volunteer group we entertain and we have to do background checks on these volunteer groups, because we have had some horror stories across the Caribbean of volunteer groups coming in under the guise of helping, but creating havoc. So we have to do proper investigative work with regards to who we allow to come in to assist us here in St. Kitts Nevis.
Really? Okay. Now, the dispatchers unit, which was formed sometime last year, is now in full operation, I am told. What part would they play during the upcoming hurricane season?
All right. The dispatch system would now take the majority of calls. Any call going to 911. They are the central repository for receiving calls, and then from they receive the call, they do an analysis of which entity should respond, and then that entity will be notified. During an emergency, we would have all the entities stationed at the EOC. So from the 911 center, the issue would now come to the EOC to determine the extent of our response from the EOC.
Okay. Now, your awareness program at the start of every hurricane season and during is extremely important. It is what the citizens and residents depends on to stay informed during every hurricane season. Speak to us about your various awareness programs where persons can go to access the relevant information as it pertains to the hurricane season or an approaching storm.
All right. Well, we have a robust public awareness campaign that addresses each hazard for each month of the year. However, specific for hurricane information, we would have information being sent out on Bond Radio. We have information on NTV. We have information being sent on our website, www.ndmd.kn, and also on our social media pages. We also have various WhatsApp groups that disseminate information based on the grouping. We have a shelter managers chat. We have a boat captains chat. We have a hazard chat that not only comprised of locals, but we have some dignitaries in that chat group as well, who can make calls to the foreign entities who can provide assistance. So we have a holistic approach in disseminating messages for hurricane season.
Now, I noticed you mentioned quite a few chats, but remember our senior citizens are not too much involved in the chats and so forth. So will you suggest that they go for the information?
But at the start of the hurricane season, we also partner with the churches and the schools in ensuring that the information on hurricane preparedness is disseminated. So information is sent through the churches as well. So if persons are likely to go to church or are in a particular business, they will receive the information from disaster management. If you're looking at pamphlets, we have some pamphlets available at the department that we can provide individuals, but they would have to come to the department for the pamphlets. But we are in a digital space, so we ensure that as much as we can utilize digital services, we will send the information digitally.
Okay. Now, if a storm is approaching our area, what sort of advice do you give to our fishermen?
Based on the sea conditions expected, we would advise them to secure the fishing vessels, and if they can also secure the pots, they can bring those to shore. Right. We have had the unfortunate situation of a person losing engines or boats or both during systems. So we encourage persons, as I indicated, we have a boat captain's chat that is comprised of our ferry operators and some fishermen. We also have an agriculture chat as well. In Nevis, the Marine Division is a part of the Ministry of Agriculture, and information is also passed through that channel. So we encourage fishermen to listen to Van Radio as well, but also through marine resources. We also send information to the marine resources for dissemination as well. So those who are not directly on our chat group may be a part of the marine division. So information is channeled through that avenue as well.
Is there a designated area for the fishermen to pull up their boats?
Well, there are a number of parishes on Nevis who would have an active fishing community. We have Jessop's area, Newcastle, some areas in Bath, and the St. James by the airport, and also in the Indian Castle area in St. George's. So those are the main fishing areas, and those are monitored by the Department of Marine Resources.
But do they have designated areas where they are told to pull their boat to?
Well, the beaches are so equipped that they can secure the vessels.
Oh, at the particular area that they pull up the boats?
Yes. Larger vessels would tend to remain at sea, but then if the storm is passing on the north, they will go on the south to shelter. And vice versa, if the storm is on the south, they will go on the north to shelter in the shallow waters.
Now, staying with our fishermen, our fishermen normally lose a lot of their fish pots if a storm is passing. Does the disaster preparedness unit assist them in any way to get back on their feet, so to speak?
We have assisted some fishermen in some shape or form, but it is not a holistic program that we have. Right, so it's important for them to ensure that they insure their properties and can get some return, right, from the insurance companies. But the Nevis Island Administration have assisted persons when they have lost. Not 100% in return, but at least they get something back to assist
get them back on the feet.
To get them back on the feet. Yes.
Right. And finally, the Pinnis Beach is now a hub of activity. Several restaurants are located pretty close to the coastline. What advice you have for them if a storm is approaching?
Pinnis Beach is a low-lying area, and it is usually impacted by storm surge. So we would encourage those proprietors to ensure that they have sandbags available to protect their property from storm surge. And that's an area that is targeted by us through the Ministry of Tourism to provide information on a daily basis. Not only weather reports, but information on any earthquake activity, because they are also in the tsunami evacuation zone. So we have direct contact with some of those proprietors to send them messages with regards to evacuation, etc., etc. So for the hurricane season will be no different. They will be receiving messages from the disaster management with regards to pending storms or daily weather updates, and also the sea surface conditions, the height of the storm surge expected, or height of waves. As I indicated at the start of the show, the CRID project that now has wave action, height of wave information that will be provided to the St. Nevis Met Services and disaster man, we'll be able to provide them with more accurate details as to the impact expected on our beaches.
Okay, information, but do you provide any assistance to them?
No.
In terms of help them pack sandbags and
No.
They're on their own.
They're on their own with that. They should seek permission from the Department of Physical Planning with regards to removing any sand. Right? So that is not part of our remit. We depend on the Physical Planning Department for providing information on the aggregation of sand or depletion of sand. Right? So they should seek permission before
interfering with the sand, of course.
Yes.
Otherwise than that, they just lock down their property and run for the hills.
Yes, and ensure that their insurance policy will cover the damages after.
Cover the damage. Okay, I got you. Well, Mr. Dyer, I want to thank you very much for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us this evening. I trust that the information you departed this evening is being heard far and wide because we have no control over the hurricane season. The most you could do and I could do is to offer information and suggestions and ideas, and so I am happy to have you here this evening to disseminate that information. Your final words for our listening and viewing audience.
All right, we are some 22 days away from the start of the hurricane season, and we again would be appealing to the general public to ensure that their homes are prepared, their businesses are prepared, churches are prepared, homes are prepared for the onslaught of the 2025 hurricane season. The Colorado State University have indicated early that we are likely to have, or there's a possibility of having, up to 19 named storms, 7 of which could be hurricanes, 4 of which could be major hurricanes. It only takes one to disrupt our economy.
True.
We are in a critical state at this time, and to mitigate the impact, we have to be prepared. So we will be doing our part in disseminating messages and preparing our communities in getting ready. We cannot do this without the volunteers and the decision makers from across the various sectors. So we appeal to everyone to ensure that they do their part to mitigate any impact of any hurricane or storm or other hazard that could impact us. Thank you very much. And again, for our volunteers, person who want to come on board, 469-1423. If you're overseas, it's 1-869-469-1423, 1-869-469-7903, or visit our website, www.ndmd.kn. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dyer. Folks, we have come to the end of another edition of our Government at Work program. Join us again next week when we shall do it all over again. Do enjoy the rest of the evening's programming. Then have a pleasant night's rest. Good night.